This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library
enough, you can get the Truefire All Access Pass for as cheap as they ever do it, the $99 thing. So just jump and do that if you're looking for the best price you can get Truefire All Access for.
Many years ago, I did a video, I think it was Keith from 5 Watt World that kind of inspired this, I think he also says that I inspired him to try this, so I don't know exactly what happened, but the idea was basically that adding just one sort of real pedal alongside your modeler, whether it's an HX Stomp, FM3, FM9, whatever it is, could be a great idea, but not just because the real pedals sound better or anything like that, but I wanted to explore in this video why this might be a good idea. And I was just thinking, right, I'm going to start this video. I just plugged in this Venus from Crazy Tube Circuits. So I've got my normal kind of preset that's here. So I've got my sounds, and then if I'm on this clean, I just turned on Venus like this was what happened. I was like, wow, well, that is... You know, proof positive that this is something worth trying. So let's explore in this video together. If you want to spend, you know, a few minutes with me in my bedroom today, then I'm just going to go through some reasons and some maybe pedals that you might want to try this sort of thing with, maybe. Now, I think the most obvious thing that you'd be thinking about this for would be because, you know, some modelers don't have every single drive pedal. Well, no modeler has every single drive pedal, and oftentimes it might be something that you really like that is missing. So, for instance, it might be this is a Crazy Tube Circuit Venus. I've got a real tube driver over there. So a real tube driver, their version of it is modelled within the HX Stomp. But whether you believe that they can get totally close to these things or not, I think sometimes it's worth having, even if it is in there, the real thing sometimes. We'll get into more of those reasons, but a few examples of pedals that I've got here. The J-Rocket, the Dude. So this is somewhat of a modified Zen drive, I think, but it's actually quite a compressed type pedal, sort of like an amp in a box thing, like a Dumble amp in a box type thing. The Dude is one. Something like the Kingsley Harlot or Kingsley Page or something like that would be somewhat similar to the Venus Crazy Tube circuits, in that you're thinking, right, well, I'm going to reintroduce a tube to the circuit. And I think that's kind of a totally valid thing to do. Or, very simply, something that's a classic like the Boss Blues driver is just not within the Helix. So let's just plug this one and see what that sounds like. So it could be, as long as your pedals are working, a quick win in terms of adding sort of a tone that maybe would not occur to you otherwise. And thinking about it in some cases like a bit of a Moore pedal, where you've got your snapshots already. So this snapshot has a top secret overdrive. But a boost that can be worked with each of the different tones. That's something like the Blues driver. Another question you might have would be, well, why wouldn't you put it in the loop? And I think that's a totally valid question. But in the loop of the HX Stomp, you're not going to be having the impedance effects of whatever these pedals are. So they are dropping impedance like a Tube Screamer. If it's in the loop, that won't happen. Another thing, knock-on impact of being in the loop, is that you're going to get like a millisecond extra latency. So if you're sensitive to that, that's a thing to watch out for. But a major factor here that I think we need to be thinking about is like, what is the workflow? And you think here, like this just adds like just an extra sort of menu-free way that we can interface with like using pedals. Just, you know, sometimes it's not necessarily what you want to be doing it, like it's like an added hassle in some ways, but so this is basically like a King of Tone type circuit, right? VS Audio Royal Flush. If you had a dual overdrive up front, I can just reach down. It really does feel like a best of both worlds scenario. Just adding one drive pedal, I think, in front of your HX Stomp. It's not necessarily about having loads of these things, but just thinking about it and what it's maybe going to add to your preset. Like, I'm definitely all in on snapshots, but just like that dual overdrive type idea, it just really adds so much in terms of workflow, and just basically gives me access to essentially 3 more sounds on each snapshot, right? It's going to be more effective on the cleaner stuff, of course, or edge of breakup, but you know, realistically, if I've got a double overdrive pedal there, I've got on the one side I could have that blues breaker on or off, on the other side blues breaker on or off, and then stacked as well. It really does open up a whole kind of different kettle of fish in terms of workflow, and I think that's the important thing here. So maybe consider it if you've not tried it. I'm sure some of you got pedals that are sitting on the shelves that you've not really considered and not tried, and I think for me, for sure, I'm almost always thinking, right, I want to try and be like all in the box, or purely using an HX Stomp, or purely using Helix Native, but actually sticking an analog pedal in front has, I think, some benefits in terms of workflow, and in terms of tone, and in terms of like what it's actually like to play, which maybe can help us get back to some of the things that we might have been missing, where it's like, I'm just tweaking menus all the time, I'm not totally happy, or I'd like there's like an extra tone that I need for this gig. Like, where's that going to come from? Particularly with an HX Stomp or like a Fractal FM3, what I'm often missing on a gig is like that between kind of thing, where it's like I could do great clean tones, I could do great drive tones, but when it comes to something which is sort of like on that edge of breakup, it's like I don't have enough snapshots or enough foot switches to just take me to that extra place. What if I just had one drive pedal, and what would that be? Maybe that's like a different video for a different time, but adding a drive pedal alongside your modeler, I think, can give real benefits.